party. Because it's going to be part 8 of Tales of Destiny. Anyway, Stan says, we reached a dead end. Dimlo says, don't panic, look over there. The ruins are sealed in such a way that you cannot proceed without a special key. Clemente says, the key is, of course, us, the Swordians. I mean, we could put one of us in there. Stan says, I see. Dimlo says, the seal can only be broken while we are embedded into it. Philia says, that means we have to leave a Swordian behind, right? Woodrow says, I'm not comfortable with that. Fuck you, you're gonna do it anyway. Chelsea says, I'll stay here with you, Woodrow. Woodrow says, no, take Chelsea with you. We don't know what's ahead of you, and the more forces you have, the better. Chelsea says, I understand, Lord Woodrow, if you say so. Okay. The only thing you missed last time, I don't really miss anything, honestly, is, I had to find this dungeon and get inside of it, but I haven't done anything in here yet. Basically, we're getting the R key, whatever the heck that is. I forget what it's for. It's been a couple days. Oh yay, the puppies are going to be done again today. My favorite. Any others? My party change. I don't think I had Woodrow in it. Whatever, it'll be fine. Ugh, I don't like leaving either one of them. Philia says, I'll stay. Kongman says, if you feel like you're in danger, call on me. Philia says, I understand, and thank you. Got some star gloves. Those are for Ruti. Some blue lenses. I need all of those that I can get. I feel like the game's been pretty stingy with those. Got a seed and some lens, nothing too interesting there. Ruti says, you guys go ahead and get that over with. Blah blah blah. Woo. Got the B squad in my team now. Looks like we picked up some great gel. Not that I'll probably use it ever. But we can use these things. Stan says, is there a key here? Dimlo says, that's right. Uh-oh, it's a monster. Darn it. Hangman says, I'm the champion. Dimlo says, get the key quickly. Okay. And that should be enough to bring Radisral to the surface. Chelsea says, let's get back. Mary says, Stan, come here for a second. Before we meet with Ruchi, there's something I want to say. If you get a chance, please try to cheer her up. Stan says, I didn't realize there was anything wrong. Mary says, what if Leon said is true? The Huger we're trying to fight is Ruchi's ... Mary says, I'm probably making you confused. I'm trying not to. I'll do what I can to help, but I need your help as well. Well, let's head back. So she's implying that Hugo is probably Ruchi's dad, is my guess. Ruchi says, welcome back. Did you get the key? Let's get out of here. I'm tired of waiting. Okay. I was hoping I'd just teleport me out of here. B-Squad indeed. Hogman says, sorry for making you wait. She takes her sword out. Blah blah blah. Same thing. Oh, we're so happy you're back. I don't really like that guy, honestly. Stan says, Ruti. We're interrupted. People of Earth, accept our gift, another blast from Belkrant. Goody. Alrighty. Stealing more ground from the Earth to make that thing grosser. Yeah, we get it. Come on, chop chop. Woodrow says that's 2 shots down. Clemente says the energy is being replenished faster than expected. At this rate, the 3rd shot is coming soon. Billy says we need to hurry back. Well, yeah. Let's stand around and talk about how we need to hurry. Always loved that in games. Like, what kind of drugs are you on? Lost earlier, so hopefully I don't get too lost again. These islands are annoying because they're very easy to get stuck on. There it is. Anyhow, Riker says, thank you for your hard work in getting the key. We'll begin our preparations for the surfacing of Radrosol. I want you to prepare yourselves for the coming battle and keep your wits about you. I've been assigned as Commander Riker's assistant. I look forward to working with you all, says Reynolds. Woodrow says, how long will it take to finish the preparations? Riker says, I'll report as soon as I'm done, and disappears like an asshole. Fabulous. Woodrow says, I'm gonna lose it if I sit around doing nothing. Philia says everything has been moving so fast these past few days. Chelsea says everything that has happened feels like a dream. Kongman says, I'm not dreaming that Leon is gone. I'll definitely avenge him. Ruti, I'll take care of this. I'll kill that bastard Hugo. Mary says, Kongman, no. Kongman says, why not? What's wrong with that? What is it? Did I say something I shouldn't have? Mary says, no. Ruti says, actually, Hugo and Leon are really father and son. Chelsea says, that means that Hugo is my father. Philia says, you didn't know that about ... Ruti says, that's not why. I don't think anything of it, okay? There's no way I would have any feelings for someone I've only met a couple times. Don't be so gloomy, Chelsea. It's not your concern. Just because Leon says it's true doesn't necessarily mean it is. After what he's done, there's always the possibility that he was lying. Chelsea says, you can't talk like that. I feel sorry for Leon. Ruti says, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Chelsea starts crying, apparently. Ruti says, I'll be around. Give me a shout when you're ready. And leaves. You better not be hiding somewhere in this shithole. Stan says, Ruti, there you are. Ruti says, I'm sorry for what I did to Chelsea. I'll have to apologize later. You're all sick of me, aren't you? Stan says, that's not true. Ruti says, you're driving me crazy. Can I tell you something even more terrible? I'm not sad at all that Leon died. In fact, I'm furious. It's not like I'm gonna start It's not like I'm going to suddenly start calling him my brother or something. The only family I have are the little ones at the orphanage and the sisters. I don't care about Leon or Hugo. I hate them. I'm the worst, see? Stan says no. Ruti says, why not? I'm a selfish, cold-hearted person. Stan says, I don't think so. Ruti says, why not? I didn't even cry like you did. How is that not cold-hearted? Stan says, Ruti, you don't have to do this. Ruti says, I don't? I can't stand how empathetic you are. I'm not even kidding. Maybe this is his plan, right? He's actually alive, looking at us and laughing. And then eventually he'll jump out and he'll say, huh, or Stan says, there's no way he could have survived. You know that, don't you? Ruti says, then what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do? I hated that guy so much. He was so cocky and bossy. And we were only together a short period of time. So why are you in so much pain? Why are you so upset? Stan, tell me, why are you doing this? Stan says, I'm not smart enough. I don't know what I should say in a situation like this. So at least, let's carry this burden together for his sake. Ruti says, oh my gosh. Her vagina explodes a magnificent light that's blinding my fucking eye holes. Or the game just fucking collapsed into itself. Who knows? Ruti says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Stan says, it's okay, bitch. Ruti says, but thanks to you, I'm doing a little better. Stan says, I see. Ruti says, I'm gonna stop Hugo. I don't think it's our parents after all. I'm sure it's the mismanagement of my family. Is it wrong to fight for a personal vendetta? Stan says, no, it's not. I think you're fine doing that. Ruti says, thanks. Stan says, let's go get back to the others. Ruti says, okay. Ruti rejoins our fucking party. What does this shit do? Vitality apparatus. And you're still hungry. Ha 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 ha, Chrono Trigger reference. Anyways. Ruti says, sorry that I'm such a cunt. Mary says, are you okay? Ruti says, Chelsea, I'm sorry. It's okay, it was my fault for being so blunt, says Chelsea. Stan says, I need to apologize to everyone too. All I could think about was getting vengeance for Leon, even though my mouth was saying other things. In the end, it was all I could think about. But that's not good enough. The first thing we need to think about now is how we're gonna handle this bullshit. I only realized that after talking it through with Ruti. Woodrow says, Stan, have you finished sorting out your thoughts? Stan says, even now there are things I need to consider, but right now, more than anything, I think I have to fulfill my responsibilities as a master. Phileas says, I agree with what Stan said. Kongman says, it's not just the Swordian Masters, don't forget about us too. Stan says, of course, everyone here is an important friend. Let's all work together to end this war at all costs. Everyone says yes simultaneously. Disappearing McDouche appears on the screen and says, Swordian team, we're ready to launch, bitches. Reynolds says, once we have surfaced, it's a short walk to the Diecroft. Everyone, are you ready to go? Stan says, absolutely. Riker says, let's get this thing started. Main engine, ignite. Reynolds says, main engine firing. Riker says, Radrosol, rise. Okay. I didn't know it was an airship thingy. I thought it was like an ocean vessel, but whatever. This RPG is so original. LOL, not. Oh no, ancient technology is going to be used to blow up Earth. Stan says, what just happened? Earth dwellers, why would you try the same approach twice? I was already prepared for you to try it again, with my dragon buddy. The dragon is circling above. We are prepared for you. Ah ha 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 ha. Do you like it? You no longer stand a chance. Bitches. You will become a sacrifice to the guardian dragon and be reduced to dust for the outer shell. Phileas says, ah. Ruti says, are you okay? Riker says, we are using most of our remaining power to deploy a defensive shield. We can hold on for a little longer. Ruti says, I see. Riker says, in fact, in addition to the Guardian Dragon, there is one other thing that's troubling me. Reynolds, display our video feed of the Diecroft. It looks like there's something covering the area around it. The barrier is deployed on all sides. It's almost impossible to get through by hitting it head-on. Clemente says, even if we take care of the dragon, we must deal with the barrier. Dimlo says, this sucks. How can Hugo do so much? Dimlo says, how is it that he knows so much about aerial cities and the Aether Wars? Atwhite says, he knows too many details even if the information wasn't completely covered up. Atwhite says, it's hard to believe that this knowledge comes from just researching historical records. Stan says, I don't know anything. No matter what Hugo knows or does, we can't lose. Is there anything you can do, Riker? Riker says, we analyzed all the information available to us and considered all possible operational plans. We do have a countermeasure, though the odds of success are slim. I'd like to hear more details, says Woodrow. Riker says, all right. First of all, Riker says, I'm going to make a device to neutralize the barrier right away. While we wait for the device to be completed, I would like you to occupy the other aerial cities of the world. Reynolds, current status. Currently, there are 7 aerial cities that can be confirmed. First of all, I want you to head to Ignacia, which is the closest one. It has a transporter terminal that connects the other aerial cities. Therefore, we must seize this place first and open the route to each city. Can't we go directly to Diecroft from Ignacia, says Stan. Riker says there's a device terminal in Diecroft, but it probably isn't working. I wouldn't count on that. Next, from Ignacia, we will go to Damios. Then we'll go to Claudius. The control facility for the Guardian Dragon is most likely in Claudius. We will disable the dragon and ensure the safety of Radrosol. Dimlo says, that's fair. Radrosol's very existence is at stake if we leave that thing unattended. Riker says, once you have conquered Claudius, you will be sent back to Ignacia, where you'll go to the next named city, to the next one, and to the next one. And we'll use our device to kill the barrier or something. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Riker says, by the time you reach the last city, we'll have completed the device. If we can coordinate with each other, we can approach the Diecroft. It's gonna be a tough road, but will you do it? Stan says of course. Even if it's impossible, we're still gonna try. Isn't that what you would all do? Urti says, yeah, if we don't have a choice, we'll just have to do it. Mary says, no need to ask. Philia says, we will do everything in our power to help. Woodrow says, I want to end this war at all costs. Kongman says, let's do this. Chelsea says, I'll do my best too. Riker says, alright, then let's get to work. First, sail to your first destination, Ignacia. Okay. We have to stop the dragon. It's really dragging its feet. Alright, so we just leave this place then, and that's what we do. Okay, okay. Dokily dokily dock. Still don't have green or yellow lens, which sucks. Feels like we're getting to the end of the game, too. I really hate that, like, whole, oh, we're gonna kick everyone out of the party for 2 seconds. And then, you know, put it all back in there in not the same order that you had it in. It'll be super fun for you to have to redo everything every 5 seconds to pad the length of the game. Oh my fucking god. Reynolds says, I have a status report. The elevator is up and running. It can be used to travel between here and the surface. Okay, whatever. Why couldn't you have just told us that shit earlier? I don't get like a special little device or anything to drive around on this shithole. Oh, there's monsters up here. Beautiful. On this newly formed land that doesn't even look habitable, of course. Of course it is. They just have to say something every time you walk into a place. This is Team Sordian. We will begin our attack. Complete the internal control and secure the transporter. Okay, game. Oh shoot, I was muted. I just said I hope this isn't a stupid warp maze. And the dialogue wasn't very important. Your team made fun of Stan's vocabulary, basically. And they talked about the warp thing not being connected to the main palace or whatever. Clemente says, the Deimos system is down. We can't open the door until we restore it. We'll have to recharge the sys. Of course. Whatever. I guess we have to turn the light switch on or something. Anyway, I finally figured out that there was a puzzle room that I missed, which was really easy to miss because it didn't look like you could actually go in that direction. So after I literally checked everything, basically you use the words on the tablets to figure out the puzzle. You use the Sorcerer's Stone to switch the compass at the upper right-hand corner of the room to make it show that it's north. You put a star ball in the north hole, and then you go downstairs, you put a crescent moon ball in the left hole, the heart ball in the south hole, and I know there's like a sun hole, a sun one too, and I think that one goes in the right. It was a hot mess, but yeah, it's done. Anyways, Dimlo says this is the control room where the Guardian Dragon's control unit is. If we hold this place, we can stop the dragon. Question mark says, I'm not going to let you do anything more than you already have. Stan says, I think I recognize your voice. That's right, it's Mr. Baruch. He says, you remember well. Woodrow says, were Oberon's executives complicit in Hugo's misdeeds after all? Stan says, why would a fine man like you do this? Baruch says, it is the subjectivity of your earthly people that sees our actions as evil. At the very least, I'm acting based on my beliefs. Stan says, Baruch, please don't do this. Baruch says, the conversation is over. There's nothing more to say between us. We start fighting him, I guess. Transforms into a lobster man or some kind of praying mantis creature. Oh, he died. Calling Man says, how about, which makes no sense. And we get a cutscene. Which, okay, we just make the dragon self-destruct, I guess. Riker says, the dragon has stopped functioning. This will allow us to reduce the output of the shields and focus our efforts on rebuilding a neutralization device. I want you to go through Deimos and return to Ignacia. The next step was to go to Hilario's via Rodon. You're going to work me to the bone, says Clemente. Woodrow says, let's get out of here. Chelsea says, alright. Stan says, Baruch, did you really think that this was the only way to do it? I don't agree with you. Alright, we stopped the dragon, now we must heal Ignos. So we're going to Ignacia, Dymos, I don't know. There's so many stupid names in this game, it's just terrible. And because this game is so much fun, it's going to make me backtrack all the way to some other place, so I'm actually just going to end the recording here and pick it up when something interesting happens. Alrighty. I just backtracked and healed and sold some stuff. We're now moving on to the next of the dungeons called Redaean. Stan says, Dimlos, what's the difference between a celestial being and a normal human being? Dimlos says, biologically they're the same, they have a difference in consciousness. Originally, aerial cities were built by people on the ground. It was built as an immigration facility after a comet collision caused the environment on Earth to deteriorate. The term celestial beings was coined by some people in the airborne city to refer to themselves. They thought of themselves as a privileged class and oppressed those who remained on the Earth below. This in turn led to the Aether Wars. Woodrow says, I didn't know that's how it happened. In the end, people may not change much no matter what day and age it is. Dimlos says, well, that's it. Let's move on through Redaean. Stan says, yeah, I know. Okay. Anyway, I'm about halfway through I think this is the 7th dungeon, and Irene is telling us, listen, Stan, I'm going to ask Hugo to relocate the people of Earth. Of course, we can't save all of them. I believe that anyone who is qualified can become an inhabitant of the new world. Woodrow says, and those who are not accepted are told to die on Earth. He imitates God while in human form. Don't you think that attitude is arrogant? Dimlos says, it's exactly the idea of a celestial being. Irene is a fine celestial being. Stan says, I'm not gonna back down. Irene says, it looks like the talk has gone in the wrong direction. That's too bad. Gertie says, how dare you? Stan, I'm gonna get you to that woman. Okay. Gertie says, just you wait. I'm gonna show the rich how hard life can be. They're kind of just speculating that she's in the center of the facility. Yeah, nothing too interesting there with the skids. I'm gonna stop here and stitch these all together. Alright, now we are through the dungeon. I would presume Irene is behind this door, but I could be wrong. Dimlos says, this is the heart of Helrios. Clemente says, in the bag, here is the technical research facility that we need. Irene says, it's been a long time. Stan. Stan says, Irene, I didn't want to see you again like this. Why? I want to create a world where no one hates each other, where everyone laughs. That's what you said. Where did you go wrong? Irene says, Stan, do you know what's going on in Neustadt now? The gap between the rich and the poor has only grown since you were there last. This causes constant strife and people's minds are filled with doubt and envy. Stan, you've traveled the world and seen similar situations in many places, have you not? In order to realize my ideals, everything must be brought to an end. I don't know. I realized that and agreed with Hugo's idea. Ruti says, thanks for the advice, but your words are shallow. I can't help but laugh. What kind of ideal is that? You're just running away from the painful truth of reality. Your nonsense will not reach our hearts. Irene says, we've passed the point of discussion, have we? Irene says our paths are no longer the same. She summons an orb around her titties. I will henceforth call her Titty Orb. Irene says you're strong. Stan says let's start over. Like how we promised in our competition. I'll help you with anything. Irene says you haven't changed at all from the last time that I've seen you. You've seen a lot of bad things and suffered a lot. Stan says I'm sure it's because of the promise that I made to you. I've been thinking a lot about what I should do since then. I want to create a world where no... Just stop repeating this shit. Irene says, do you really think you can do that? Stan says, even if we can't, we'll try. That's what it means to aim for your ideals. Irene says, you're very straightforward. I guess that's your charm. As she backs away. While we don't do anything because we're stupid. Irene says, Stan, don't ever lose that innocence of yours. That straightforwardness of yours may open doors to a new world. Stan says, Irene, what are you doing? Irene says, I'm done here. Sorry, Stan. Stan begs her to wait, but she has walked into a very bright room, and apparently that will mean death for her. Ruti says, how is Stan? He's been silent the entire time, says Mary. I had a hard time getting him to behave. What a troublesome fellow, says Kongman. I knew Irene too, so I can understand his shock. Ruti says, I think I'll check on him for a bit. Woodrow says, do I put Igtanos on top of this? Clemente says, that's right. All you have to do is activate the device on the control panel over there. Clemente continues, Philia, would you mind going over to the control panel? Philia says, yes. Well, let's get started. Woodrow says, Igtanos, please come back to me. Ruti says, Chelsea, we're good here. I'll take care of it. Chelsea says, I understand. And leaves. Stan says, Ruti, I wonder what justice is. Ruti says, I knew you would go there. Okay, Stan, don't think about it too much. You're not very bright, are you? You said so yourself. Stan says, I don't know what's going on with me. Ruti says, let me ask, what are you fighting for? Stan says, it's obvious, isn't it? I'm a Swordian master, I felt I had to do it. Ruti says, impossible. You're not the kind of person who is driven by a cause like that. You're the type who works hard for the people close to you, for someone important. Stan says, is that so? Ruti says, I'll change the question. What's the ideal you're trying to achieve? I want to make my family happy. Ruti says, then that's fine. That's enough of a reason for you to fight. There's no point in expanding your reach outside of that. Ruti cuts him off as he protests and says, Stan, look at me. It's not just for your family that you have to work hard. We'll be there for you too. Don't forget that. Stan says, Ruti and others are? Ruti says, yes, Philia, Woodrow, Mary, Chelsea, and Kongman, and me too. I need you to take care of yourself. You have to protect us. Stan says, okay. Right or wrong, just or not, more than that, what I need to do is protect my loved ones. So that's what I'm gonna do. Ruti says, are you finally convinced? Stan says, thanks, Ruti. I think I finally understand. Ruti says, good. Stan says, I also realize how important all of you are to me as well. I guess I have to do it for everyone like that. Ruti says, let's go back to your precious friends. You're okay, right? Stan says, yeah. Where do you think you're going? Okay, so that's another room. Okay. What was out that room? I don't know. It was a fucking... the sky, I guess? Clemente says, looks like it's over. Dimlo says, how's it going? Woodrow says, Igtanos, can you hear me? The sword says, I can hear you. They're happy that he's fixed. Gave me a hard time with that earlier battle, says Woodrow. Igtanos says, I'm sorry I haven't been more helpful. Even though you can speak, you heard us, didn't ya? Precisely. Since you're back, what are we gonna do now? The mirrored barrier that surrounds Dycroft will be cut through by the Swordians, right? That's just like Riker. Pretty reckless strategy, but it is now our only option. I need your help. Will you fight with me, Igtanos, says Woodrow. The sword says, of course, I've been waiting for this moment to come. I will fulfill my duties as a Swordian, Master and King of Vandaria, says Woodrow. Woodrow says, be with me until I die and become my strength. Woodrow says, I am one of the masters, aren't I? Which he already was before, I thought? Stan says, congratulations. Dimlo says, this is our team. We've successfully repaired the broken sword. Riker says, well done, everyone. We've just completed the neutralization device. Clemente says, yay. Riker says, there's also the delivery of the device. I'd like you to return to Redisroll. Stan says, understood. As I try to leave the facility, an alarm goes off. Stan says, what's that noise? Clemente says, it's from Radrosol. Riker says, a high-density energy reaction from the Belkrantz firing port. Dimlo says, what the? Alright, so that's the third shot, I guess. Woodrow says, this is the third shot. Philia says, one more time and the outer shell will be ... Ruti says, we're running out of time. Stan says, anyhow, let's go back to Radrosol, or whatever the name of that stupid place is. Alright, we have now made it back to the ship, the Radisroll. So, I expect there should be some new developments. Riker says, everyone, you made it back here in one piece. Igtanos says, no time for greetings. Let's get started on the neutralization device. Stan says, here it is. Riker says, connect the device to the Swordian to neutralize the specular barrier. Riker says, that's how we'll get close to Dycroft. Stan says, all we have to do is figure out a vehicle to get into the Dycroft. Dimlo says, we're going to go through Josiah to get to Mikhail. Matt White says, to retrieve an Aether Cruiser. Stan says, alright, let's get moving. We have attained the Mirror Shield switch. We need to go to Mikhail and get the Aether Cruiser. We'll first go to Ignacia and then to Josiah, right? I have to make sure I set the transport device correctly. That's right, if you make a mistake, we'll end up somewhere else. What the hell? Oh, I don't know what I'm actually doing, so... yeah. I'll come back on once I make some more progress. Alright, we've now gotten to the end of another really super annoying dungeon with a lot of puzzles. So I'm just gonna show the part with the boss since nothing interesting happened here. Stan says, what the hell was that? I agree. Dimlo says, it's the Aether Cruiser. Great, that's what we've been looking for. The question mark guy says, please wait. Woodrow says, you're an Oberon executive. Rembrandt says, I'm Rembrandt. I met some of you before at Hugo's mansion. Stan says, that time at, and then trails off. Rembrandt says, there is a guest in the cruiser, an important guest entrusted to me by the young master. Please give up the cruiser. Stan says, you mean Marion? How dare you call her a guest when you've taken hostages? Rembrandt says, a guest is a guest is a guest. Philia says, why are you doing this? Rembrandt says, what Master Hugo wants is what I want. I hope that's enough of an answer. Mary says, so you're blindly following. Kongman says, I think you're crazy, man. Rembrandt says, you can say what you want. I will not be disturbed any longer. What is he, Dr. fucking Wily? Jesus. It's Dr. Wily. The ripoff. Where's Mega Flan? I need a guy with hair who draws his more gray. I saw self-destruct and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. I don't know. Is there some kind of trick to killing this thing? Are they like status affected? I'm so confused. She's just standing there. Did I accidentally hit a button or something? Because Philia kept like attacking instead of using magic. I'm just gonna literally have her just stop this dipshit. Maybe that will help. Maybe their strategies got messed up. I don't understand. Maybe I just dropped the controller. I have no clue why this is being so weird. Hopefully I'll kill it this time. Woodrow says we have to rescue the hostage, Chelsea. Chelsea says, okay. Stan says, Rembrandt. Rembrandt says, I fought with you, not only for Master Hugo. I'm a parent myself. Ruti says, is that, and then trails off. Rembrandt says, Irene, who was in Helreos, was my daughter. So I guess we didn't really kill her. She kind of just jumped out of a very bright window, and I don't know what happened to her. Stan says, no way. Rembrandt says, sorry, I tried to avenge you. Kongman says, keep your head up, we're not gonna do anything wrong? I don't... Chelsea says, I saved the people inside. Kongman says, let's go, Stan, we got work to do. Stan says, you're right, thanks, Kongman. Stan says, I'm glad you're okay, Marion. Marion says, thanks for your help. So, Leon, is he... ... Stan says, Leon is, and doesn't continue. Dimlos says, Stan, are you gonna tell her the truth? Stan says, Leon had other things to do, we're not together right now. Marion says, is that right? Stan said, but he's fine, I'm sure he's doing just fine. Marion says, I hope Leon didn't take a wrong turn because of me. He saw in me the image of his mother who had passed away. I've heard that I'm a lot like his mother, Chris. Stan says, Marion. Marion says, I was always a weakness for him. I couldn't help but worry that he might get lost because of me. Shouldn't he take his own life first? I've even thought about it. Stan says, there's no mistake in what Leon has done. He thought of you and us, and he did the right thing. Marion says, I see. Ruti says, don't tell me you're crying, for that guy's sake. Marion says, yes, I am. Mary says, don't cry, Chelsea. Chelsea says, I know, but... Woodrow says, let's send Marion to the surface. Dimlo says, there's an escape pod here. We might want to use that. Stan says, okay, Marion, come over here. Marion says, thanks for everything. I beg your pardon, Stan? Stan says, yeah. Marion says, well, it's still... I heard a lot about you from Master Leon. You two must have been very close. Stan says, yeah, he's my best friend. Marion says, I'm sure Master Leon will be pleased to hear that. Stan says, Marion? Marion says, yes, sir? Stan says, what are you gonna do when you get back to Earth? Marion says, I'll be awaiting Leon's return at the mansion. That's what we, the servants, are supposed to do. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go. Stan says, that was the right thing, wasn't it? Ruti says, yeah. Stan says, good. Finally, all that's left is the Diecroft. Get the cruiser and neutralizers ready and let's go. Mary says, instrument check has been completed. Kongman says, if you'll just do as you're taught, I'm ready to fly. I don't know. Chelsea says, leave it to me. Riker says, let's go over the plan again. When the cruiser takes off, please step out onto the deck. Stan says, I understand. Igtano says the neutralization system is ready to go. After that, when you get close to the mirror barrier, you can release it at once. Ruti says okay. Riker says after breaking through the barrier, get to Belkrant and infiltrate. Philia says okay. Riker says the probability of success, as usual, is not high, but if you ask me, it's a miracle we made it this far. I believe in the unlimited potential of your team. Woodrow says, please, Igtanos. Igtanos says, I'm on it. Philia says, best regards, Clemente. Clemente says, Ruti says, I'm counting on you, Atwhite. Atwhite says, I know. Stan says, let's go, Dimlos. Dimlos says, copy that. Stan says, Aether Cruiser launch, target Belkrant. Yeah, they all know how to operate advanced technology for some reason. Alright, we're flying into the barrier, I guess. We splashed our magic sword juice on the barrier and it broke or something? Stan says, here's Belcrant, we managed to get here. I didn't think we were gonna crash through the wall though. It's a wonder we're still alive. Dimlo says it's too early to feel relieved now, the real work begins here. Clemente says, let's see what the plan is, shall we? Stan says, isn't that what Riker's supposed to do? Atwhite says, we can't get a signal from here. Clemente says, our first goal is to reach the top of Belcrant. Clemente says, from there we enter the main body of Dycroft and eventually reach the Eye of Atimony. Clemente says, perhaps we'll find Hugo up there too. Once we defeat Hugo and neutralize the Eye and prevent him from shooting the Belcrant again, the mission will be complete. Stan says, okay. Let's stop Hugo's ambitions. This has to end. Everyone says, yeah, simultaneously. Oh, since this is about the 10th dungeon in a row, I'm gonna assume it's gonna be long and horrible like most of the other ones. And I'm just gonna sign off here until I get to a place where some story happens. Alright, now that we are through another dungeon, hopefully this is like the end of the game. It's getting a little redonkulous that there's been like 10 dungeons in a row. I'm not even kidding you, like... Ugh. Stan says, is the eye there? Dimlo says, it's just a 3D image. It's probably a representation of the current state of the eye. Question mark says, this is it, ground troops. Stan says, Hugo. Clemente says, you've come. Hugo says, I didn't expect you to fly into Belcrant. I'm impressed with your bravery. Woodrow says, so much for your ambition, Hugo. I won't let you do what you want anymore. Philia says, the aid you relied on is no longer with us. You're all that's left. Ruti says, are you ready? Stan says, you don't stand a chance. This is the end of the war between heaven and earth. Hugo laughs. He says, come on, you can't win. Ruti says, what's wrong with you? Hugo says, it's your innocence. Didn't Leon tell you? Stan says, what did you do to Leon? Hugo says, that's how powerful I can be. Did you not hear that at all? I remember how that young swordsman cowered on the floor and begged for my forgiveness. Stan says, don't insult Leon. He would never do such a thing. Hugo says, now that we've met, I'll give you one. It was a touchy subject for Leon, though, so I didn't bother to bring it up. Swordians, you'll recognize this. Atwhite says, that's... oh no, no way, Berselius. Atwhite says, lost during the last war between heaven and earth, it's the 6th Swordian. Why is it here, says Clemente. Hugo says, I secretly transported it to the surface by the remnants of the heavenly army. So what was lost in Calvaless, I got. Atwhite says, but Berselius must have been damaged. Hugo says, you'll know if it's broken if you try your hand at it. Dimlo says, Berselius, is that really you? Can you hear me? Clemente says, Berselius. Hugo says, are you ready, you insects? Take the blade of Berselius and be done with it. Doesn't even make sense. I assume he means he's going to attack us with it, but... Hugo says, "Beh." Stan says, "Now it's over." Dimlo says, "I didn't think you could go toe-to-toe with Berselius." Ruti says, "Don't you think there's something wrong with the eye?" Woodrow says, "The glow is even stronger." Billy says, "Look everyone, light from Berselius." Dimlo says, "What happened?" Ruti says, "Are you still trying to stand?" Hugo says, "Don't think that you can defeat me with that feeble attack. No matter how much the lowly people of Earth may exclaim, they will never be able to compete with me, the Supreme Being. As long as I have Berselius, I'm invincible." Stan says, "What are you?" Ruti says, "Huh?" Stan says, "There's something different with him since the first time we met. Are you really Hugo, or are you someone else?" Ruti says, "Stan, what are you talking about?" Stan says, "How about it? Answer me." Question mark says, "For a lowly earthling, you have pretty good instincts." Dimlo says, "That voice. Now that you've realized it, I'll show you who I really am." I don't know, looks like Hugo and the sword are fusing. Or something. Is it Naughty Darkness, Dad? Hee, says Naughty Darkness Dad. Clemente says, "Nonsense." Stamhead says, "Who is that?" Dimlo says it's Mictran. Mictran laughs. "I have descended, I, the King of Heaven, once again to this world." Clemente says, "Why?" Atwhite says, "How can Mictran just materialize like that?" Mictran says, "The technology of our celestial Earth was superior to that of you Earthlings. If you have a material body and the eye of Atimony, you can even come back to life." Igtanos says, "Are you saying that this is also the eye of Atimony's power?" Philia says, "How dare you call a human body a material?" Stan says, "Mictran, it's all you're doing, isn't it?" Mictran says, "And what if that's so?" Stan says, "I knew it." Mictran says, "Swordians, you thought you were the ones who were supposed to win the war, didn't you?" That was sweet. I was irradiating my own personality to Berselius the whole time, and he had taken himself and was hiding in it? I don't know. Clemente says, "What the heck?" Mictran says, "It was humiliating to pretend to be broken, but it also gave me some interesting knowledge. The former personality of Berselius is quite the brainiac, isn't he?" Atwhite says, "You mean Carlyle?" Well, okay, says Mictran. Igtanos says, "That's how you were able to develop the barrier." Mictran says, "When Hugo found me, I took over his consciousness. And all this time, I've been using these people as my puppets. Hugo is just a lowly earthling. Without me, he would have never made it this far." Ruti says, I'll never forgive you. I don't mean to speak for Hugo, but I will never forgive you for what you've done. Okay, say it twice, why don't you? Mictran says, looks like the Belkrant is ready to launch. The outer shell will now be complete. The filthy earth will be closed in darkness. Under my rule as king, a paradise for the chosen one will be established in the heavens. Stan says, I'm not gonna let you do that. Mictran says, futile attempts, then you should see this. Woodrow says, the light from Perselius. Clemente says, that's a lot of pressure. I don't know what will happen if he hits us with that. Mictran says, let's give it a try. I don't care how many Swordian Masters there are, you can't stand against me. Stan says, what the hell? For some reason, his name is Kronos instead of Mictran. Oh, we're dead. Stan says, what? Dimlo says, stupid. This is how it should be. Mictran says, we are not on the same level. Now you know. Woodrow says, the Eye of Atimony. Mictran says, watch as the earth is shrouded in eternal darkness. Stan says, stop this. Mictran says, Belkrant, fire. Stan screams no. But merely the scream of Stan's no does not stop the horrible burst of inflaming nightmare juice into the earth's penis. Yeah, it looks like the outer crust has now completely been created. And the world below is now in darkness forever. Philia says the outer shell. Mictran laughs. Woodrow says, are you done? Mictran laughs some more. Bertie says we came so far. Stan says, damn it. Mictran says it's a complete victory for my heavenly army. I'm going to finish you off. You should be grateful. I, the King of Heaven, will deal with you in person. Mictran says, first you. Stan screams, Bertie. Bertie says, you're giving me special treatment. I'm so grateful it brings a tear to my eye. Mictran says, Hugo has always been concerned about you. Even after taking his body, Hugo still had some consciousness left. That's how I know the man was in a constant state of distress. He was wondering if there was any way he could tell you that he was your father. That's what low-born people think. I used to mock him all the time. And there's nothing you can do about it, is there? Haha. Too bad. Stan says, don't be stupid. Mictran says, what's that? Stan says, I've heard that celestial beings are no different from earthly beings. You have no humanity. It's disgusting to laugh at how families care for one another. How can you be better than the humans on Earth? Mictran says, shut your mouth. And kicks Stan to the floor. Mictran says, you cheeky little worm, I'll deal with you next. Dimlo says, get a grip, Stan. Mictran says, are you ready, Ruti? Hugo's dear daughter. What's going on? I can't move, says Mictran. Hugo says, Ruti, can you hear me? Stan says, that's Hugo. Dimlo says, what is happening? Hugo says, we don't have much time, you need to get out of here. I'm going to detach the Belkrant now, go straight to the surface. Mictran says, Hugo remains in his body. Such impudence. Hugo, I see. Hugo says, I can't hold on much longer. Hurry up before I fade away. Ruti says, wait. Hugo says, I'm so happy you called me father. That made me very happy. You didn't have any... ... I didn't give you anything. Okay. Stan says, Ruti, let's do what Hugo says. Hugo says, thank you. Ruti, stay safe. Mictran says, oh, no, no. Why don't I just stab him in the back? Ruti says, Daddy, Daddy. And then whatever is about to happen right here is gonna happen. A gay explosion. A sword falling to earth. Sploosh. I take it that's us teleporting or something. Fate says, what just happened? Something fell from the sky. Johnny says, hey Fate, I see something that looks like a light. What is that light, says Fate. Johnny says, that's... Hey, speed it up. There's Stan and the others. I thought for sure this game was over. I guess there is more. Stan says, is this? And trails off. Johnny says, he's awake. Stan says, Johnny, Fate. Fate says, all the others have been rescued. Please rest assured. Stan says, how did you get here? Johnny says, I told you, didn't I? I said that when you guys are in trouble, I'll come to your rescue. Stan says, what about Ruti? Fate says, she's very weak and sleeping right now, but she's out of danger. Stan says, is that so? Fate says, Stan. Johnny says, I'm fine. I just fell asleep too. You should get some rest, at least for now. Okay. Bad translations, for sure. The king says the heavenly king, Mictran. Woodrow says right, he was the ruler of the heavenly realm and is behind the current turmoil. The king says Leon took the Eye of Atimony and Hugo is the one that attacked the earth. The sky was also covered with a shell, Greybum's rebellion in the first place. You mean that this was all part of Mictran's plan? What kind of person is the ancient heavenly king? Woodrow says, if I had to describe it, overwhelming. Philia says, intimidation like a storm blowing from his entire body. With it, the ability to control Berselius with ease. Everything was off the charts. Mary says it was all we could do to escape. It's too bad. Woodrow says, if only I had been able to recapture the Eye. Sadly, I'm painfully aware of my helplessness. The king says, it's our country that needs to be held accountable. It is because we failed to see Hugo for what he was and our trust of him that brought us here. Fate says, instead of dwelling on the past, think about what is yet to come. As it happens, the leaders of the three nations are here. We should establish a system among nations and come up with countermeasures. Johnny says, the forces of Earth versus the forces in heaven. It's truly a war between heaven and Earth. The king says, I would like to hear from you, Swordian Masters, if you have any ideas. Stan says, we'll go up again. Many times if we have to, we will not give up until Mictran is defeated. Stan says, right, Dimlos? Dimlos says, that's right. Reynolds says, hi, everyone. Stan says, Reynolds. Collingman says, you're hurt. What happened? Reynolds says, Radazral has fallen. Dimlos says, what? Reynolds says, we tried our best, but they ultimately overran us. We can't even use the weightless elevator anymore. Philia says, what happened to Riker? Reynolds says, the commander is, and trails off, and collapses. Ruti says, we need to get you patched up. Woodrow says if Radasral is lost, there's no way for us to get up there. Stan says no way. The soldier says, please let me speak. Dryden says, what's going on? The soldier says Cresta troops are requesting assistance. A horde of monsters has descended from the sky. We're under attack. Ruti says Cresta? Dimlos says Mictran? Not only do you cast us into darkness, but you send your spawn to kill us as well. Dryden says, did he deliberately target a place where defenses are weak? Ruti says, stop it, you've got to be kidding me. We can't stay here like this, we have to go back now. Dryden says, that's not enough. I will send a relief force of my own immediately. Ruti says, I don't trust you. Stan says, wait for me, Ruti, I'll come with. All of us, I guess. Philia says, the situation seems to be dire. It's better if we head out quickly where we can bad translation. They just need to head out quickly. Anyways, the king says, "Alright, I leave it to you. We'll dispatch a rescue team as soon as possible." Johnny says, "I'll come with. I'm sure you need more help right now than ever. I can add to your strength. And it would be weird if we don't have Aquavale's representative on the team. Fate says we already discussed it. Please don't hesitate to use me." Stan says, "Thanks, that's very helpful. Alright, let's head for Cresta." Johnny has joined our party. Alrighty. If there's any new items, that might be kind of nice. Doesn't look like it to me. I'm gonna mute since my puppy's being a brat. Stan says, "This is." Ruti says, "What's happening at the orphanage?" There's just death and despair everywhere. There's no point in fretting, simply do your best, says the useless person with no good items. Don't neglect your weapons. Nothing interesting here either. The girl says, "Help me." "Don't you hurt my family," says Ruti. Ruti says, "Are you okay?" The girl says, "Ruti, we are, thanks to you. But I was so scared." The girl says, "My promise. I promised Ruti I wouldn't cry." Ruti says, "Sorry everyone, I'm sorry that you were so scared. But you're okay now, as long as I'm around, no one will hurt you." "Ruti, what's wrong?" says the girl. Ruti says, "What do you mean? You look really sad." "Hey, what happened? Is someone bullying you? Don't be sad." Ruti says, "I'm sorry. It's because of people like Leon and Hugo that the world has become this way. But at least I was able to return to you." The girl says, "It's thanks to people like them that we were able to survive. We should thank them. Thank you." "I suppose that's right. I'm sure they would both be happy if they heard what you just said." The soldier says, "We have a message. Darlshide is under attack from an army of monsters. They've engaged the enemy, but are vastly outnumbered. I beg you to send help. We must return. We cannot let the city fall. But we can't just leave Cresta in this state." The soldier says, "Let's redeploy the troops along the Fandarian border. It may take us some time to get there." Ruti says, "We'll hold the line until they arrive." Ruti continues, "Can you do this without me?" The boy says, "We're gonna be fine. Go to Darlshide. Right now, Miss Ruti isn't just our big sister. Just as you saved us, you have to save those in Darlshide." Ruti says, "Thanks. You gave me the energy I needed." The soldier says, "Until reinforcements arrive, we must defend the city at all costs." Stan says, "Alright, I'm coming with you." It's a mess. There's a monster. After them. Kongman says, how long can this go on? The soldier says, it's here again, a new kind of monster, one after the other. Damn it, we can't let them get away with this. Okay. And where is it precisely? We'll take care of this, says the soldier. Kongman says, I can't keep going like this. Stan says, don't be a coward. Kongman says, I'm flesh and blood. There's a limit to what I can endure. Stan says, you're the champion, are you not? Johnny says, that's far enough, Stan. Perhaps Synagald isn't the only one in this situation right now. Castles and cities all over the world could be under attack by the same kind of monsters. It's not just Ruti, but we're all worried about our families and hometowns. And yet, here we are fighting. I don't have to tell you any more than that, do I? Stan says, sorry. Kongman says, it's okay. Stan says, come to think of it, I hadn't really thought about Linea's village. Kongman says, oh, come on. Stan says, it's not that I forgot, it's natural to be worried and concerned. I don't know, it's more like we have to figure out how to get up there, right? We have to defeat Mictran and get the eye back. The soldier says, it looks like things have settled down for the moment, thank you very much. Chelsea says, I'm exhausted. Philia says, why don't we take a short break? Johnny says, I agree. The soldier says, I will let His Majesty know. Woodrow says, let's go to the inn. Stan says, away to the top, I wonder if we can do that. Do you have any ideas, Dimlos? Dimlos says, no. Stan says, you've been acting strange ever since we got back to Earth. You barely speak. Dimlos says, that's not true. Stan says, let's brainstorm together. We'll figure out what to do from here on out. Dimlos says, about that, Stan. You guys have done really well, but I can't do it anymore. Stan says, what boring joke are you telling? It doesn't look good on you, okay? Dimlos says, this is not a joke, this is a judgment call from an experienced soldier. As Woodrow said, we have no way to get up there. Stan says, you don't know, maybe there is a way. Dimlos says, even if we do get up there, you're no match for Mictran, you've already seen what he can do. Stan says, maybe next time we can try, you don't know unless we do. Dimlos says, we're no match for him, and the reason is clear. Woodrow says, what do you mean? Stan says, are you guys hiding something from us? Dimlos says, you can find that at... Philia says, fake Swordian Masters. These are the words that Mictran threw at us. I've been trying to figure out what it means. Isn't the answer shown in here? Woodrow says, what do you think? Clemente says, there are certain conditions that are necessary for a Swordian to reach its maximum power. Philia says, you mean the 6 of us? Clemente says, it's important but not a requirement. The condition is that the personalities of the Swordian and the Master are identical. It is only by becoming fully attuned to the wielder's spirit that the Swordian can achieve its true potential. That's one of the reasons why Mictran was so strong. The core crystal of Berselius has been overwritten by Mictran. As long as we are different people, we are not as good as the original Master, says Philia. Woodrow says that's why Mictran called us fake. Stan says, you knew this the whole time and didn't say anything? Dimlos says, that's right. Stan says, don't be ridiculous. Dimlo says, I didn't mean to deceive you. I was trying to do my best. Your growth is remarkable, and I thought you could handle it. But when you're dealing with Mictran, that's as far as you can go. Stan says, are you telling me to give up? I'm not gonna let you do that. You brought me all the way out here, and now you want me to just give up. We'll figure it out with our own hands, somehow. Dimlo says, you can't do what you can't do. Do you have any idea what you're doing? You can't do it with guts alone. I'm sorry. Philia says, Stan. Stan storms out of the inn. He says, can you hear me, Mictran? You must feel pretty good looking down on Earth from up there. But it's only for now. I will never give up. No matter how many years it takes, no matter how hard it is, we will get there. The strength of man on Earth living as firmly as a plant with roots in the ground. I'll make sure you pay for this. Stan says, sorry, Dimlos. I don't know if it's because I'm not very smart, but I'm not a good listener. So no matter how much you say it's impossible, I won't agree. Appalling, isn't it? Dimlos says, no. Philia says, we feel the same way. Alright, I get it. Why I didn't think much of Linnea. For me, my hometown, I want to protect it, but I want to protect the world even more. Stan says, Dimlos, let me know how you really feel. It's not a military decision, it's about what you think for yourself. You may look like a sword, but you're still a person, just like us. What do you want to do? Dimlos says, of course I want to do something about it. The land we struggled to reclaim 1,000 years ago cannot be taken from us so easily. Stan says, if that's the case, let's think about everything we can do together. If you can't count on me, then you'll have to train better. Don't be shy. I want to get closer to the man who was the original master. I want to find a way for you and I to work together in a real way to protect this world. We're partners. Dimlo says, Stan, you are the one. The soldier says, Reynolds has regained consciousness. Please come to the lab. He has something to tell you. Stan says, we might be able to see what's up there. Let's go. Philia says, yeah. Where would his lab be? Is it over Meower? Reynolds says, I'm sorry for all the trouble. Reynolds continues, I was desperate to get out of Radisrael. I've invited you here because, can you take a look at this? It's a blueprint for a cannon? Reynolds says, simply put, it's a device that releases an energy shot using power collected from the lens. It's not as powerful as the Bell Clant, but I think it can at least punch a hole in the outer shell. Clemente says, are you sure we can make this with equipment and materials on Earth? Philia says, is this Riker? Reynolds says, no, it's me. While I was working as his assistant, I'd been taking notes. Of course, I got a lot of advice as well. Stan says, that's great. Reynolds says, I was so frustrated that I kept getting shown up by you guys. I saw Belkrant blast, I thought I'd make something like that. Stan says, let's show Mictran what the Earth Dwellers are really made of. Isn't there anything we can do? I'll try anything. Philia says, hope is still here. Reynolds says, I'd like to give you all the details of the final operation the commander had devised. Reynolds says if we use that cannon to punch a hole in the outer shell, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to ask you all to board the Dycroft once again, and I want you to defeat Mictran, the source of all of this. Ruti says, that's easy for you to say. Woodrow says, right now we don't even have the means to get up there. Reynolds says, I've heard that the broken Draconis can be repaired. Stan says, are you sure? Reynolds says, if there is a biometallic Bercerium. Igtanos says, it's an extremely rare metal. Woodrow says, do you have any idea where some might be? Reynolds says, whatever it is, it's in Junkland and Calvaless. Ignatos says, I see. There's ancient industrial waste there. Stan says, we can manage that, right? Philia says, even if we can fix it, it's still unable to reach the correct altitude. Mary says, we failed at that before. Reynolds says, don't worry about that. The weight of the completed outer shell has also lowered the position of the Diecroft. The current altitude of the Diecroft is reachable as long as the Draconis is fixed. Chelsea says, wow. Kongman says, I'm not quite sure about the details, but it sounds like we have a shot. Reynolds says, I'm gonna start building the lens cannon. I'd like to ask a couple favors of your team. One is, as I just said, repair the Draconis, and more importantly, enhance the Swordians. Stan says, can you do that? Reynolds says, we have a research facility here. Dimlos says, the Swordian R&D lab. Clemente says, that place must have been buried in a cave-in after the last war. Woodrow says, does it really exist? Reynolds says, I already checked. In the aftermath of the attack, I heard that the facility was unearthed. Clemente says, wow. Reynolds says, with the equipment in that facility, it's possible to enhance the Swordians. Reynolds says, enhancements in the truest sense of the word. Reynolds says, that's it for the operation briefing. Clemente says, in spite of all this adversity, you continue to devise a plan. I'm rather impressed. Dimlos says, now that's what I call a commander. Stan says, nothing interesting. After hearing everything, this is what we have to do. Ruti says, yeah. Philia says, of course. Woodrow says, we've been through some tough times before. We'll beat the odds again this time. Kongman says, I'm coming. So does Chelsea, and Mary, and Johnny. Stan says, let's head to the lab right away. Dimlos says, I must warn you, it's not so simple. Stan says, just when I thought there was a glimmer of hope, you have to put a damper on things. Dimlos says, Stan, you just said, if you can't count on me, I need more training. Are you lying to me when you said that? Stan says, of course not. Dimlos says, in the other three masters, can I assume that the rest of you are on the same page? Atwhite says, it's settled. Clemente says, let's go. Ignatos says, the time has come. Dimlos says, if I could avoid coming, I would have. Stan says, what are you waiting for? Dimlos says, true enhancement is not just about us. Clemente says, a sword is only as powerful as its wielder. Igtanos says, enhancements must be done to the master at the same time. Stan says, so you're saying we're supposed to train. I'll do whatever it takes. Dimlos says, it's a matter of life and death. In the labs you're about to visit, you'll encounter more obstacles than ever before. The final trial to become a true Swordian master. I know I sound repetitive, but I'll ask it one more time. I want to overcome the barriers that stand in our way. Do you desire to be a true master? Stan says, of course. No matter the obstacle, my resolve will not change. Dimlos says, alright, I will work with you until the end. It is my responsibility. I chose you to be my partner. Clemente says, do any of you three have objections? Dryden says, Your Majesty, a courier. Woodrow says, what happened? Dryden says, please come to the audience room. Oh boy. This is just like when they threw those 10 dungeons at me. They're like, all you need to do is go find the hidden lab that got exploded from out from under the earth when the thing happened. But you know, the whole world's under attack by flying douchebags. Also, you have to kill God. Mary says, Dallas. I'm glad you are okay. I was worried about you. Woodrow says, what's going on? Dallas says, the monsters have attacked various parts of the country. And it's mostly been contained. Woodrow says, I'm relieved to hear that. Della says, I came here because I was asked to make a delivery to Sir Darzan. You remember the dragon that attacked the castle during the last revolt? I took that dragon, modified it, and made it rideable. That's the delivery. Woodrow says, when did that happen? Della says, it seems to be structurally the same as the Draconis. They can't gain much altitude, though. Please make use of it. I trust your majesty will do well. And this message from Sir Darzan. It's parked outside the city right now. You can see for yourself. Woodrow says, I'll use it, and thanks. Clemente says, if we can travel with that dragon, it's the most efficient thing we can do. Dimlo says, I think we can get straight to the Sordian R&D lab. Philia says, the wind feels like it's changing. Ruti says, that's usually when luck comes around. Stan says, thank you, Dallas. Dallas says, take care of Mary. I want you to let me worry about Fandaria. Woodrow, I haven't forgotten what you said to me, so come back safely. Woodrow says, I promise. The king says, sounds like you guys have a plan. Stan says, first we need to strengthen our forces at the R&D lab. After that, we'll go to Junkland and get the materials that are needed to enhance the Draconis. Reynolds says, in the meantime, I will be working on a cannon to pierce the outside layer of the Earth. Dryden says, we're calling on all towns and villages in the country to offer their lens. I feel bad that I can't do anything myself, but I'll spare no effort to help. Stan says, alright, let's go. Alright, that's just, you know, stuff we already know. This is not a dance. I'm begging for help. I'm screaming for help. Let me the fuck out. Alright. So this is our little robot dude. Okay. Oopsie. This looks like a good place to stop. I have to do a lot of video editing because of how annoying those dungeons were, so we will definitely not be getting another episode in today, but I will see you probably tomorrow.